Before we start, I simply need to explain that I don't guarantee this is the most effective way to manage cash. This exactly has worked for me at this phase of my life, where I am as yet residing with my folks. Haven't exactly entered adulthood yet. I'm simply a 18-year-old attempting to set aside cash. Furthermore, this is the manner by which I get it done. I feel like a ton of YouTube recordings that are about cash, particularly those pointed towards young people, are really gimmicky. Make theirs similar to 10 simple ways set aside cash fast. Number 3, old shock you. Furthermore, I simply need to hush up a smidgen. So it required me a truly lengthy investment to find a cash global positioning framework that functioned admirably for me. Assuming you've observed a portion of my arranging recordings, you could realize that I used to be an extremely severe adherence to paper arranging. However, at that point, once I found a computerized arranging instrument that worked for me, I won't ever return. Thus I sort of had that equivalent progress with cash, where I began by really following the entirety of my pay and costs in a notepad. What's more, I couldn't stand this. I would feel so complicated and simply fall flat at staying aware of it a large number of months. In any case, I didn't actually understand that the framework was the issue. It's really monotonous to need to follow all that manually. What's more, there's no simple method for adding up to numbers or think about information across months. So at long last I attempted an advanced instrument called Mint. Mint resembles an individual budget the board apparatus made by the very individuals who make TurboTax and QuickBooks, and that's what extravagant things like. Furthermore, I delighted in utilizing it, yet I observed that it was excessively muddled for my motivations since I was 17 years of age. I didn't have like various records or a lot of fixed month-to-month costs or ventures, or that's what things like. I in a real sense simply had to follow how much cash I was making, which was not much, and the amount I was spending. So then, at long last, in February of 2019, I had a go at utilizing Google Sheets, and I cherished it. That is the main thing I've utilized, since you could presumably find a great many different planning formats out there. Yet Google Sheets accompanies two, as pre-introduced, so there's a yearly spending plan layout and a month-to-month spending plan. Also, that is the one that I use. So this is the carefully guarded secret. First, you will get your web-associated gadgets decision. Go to Google Sheets and open up the month-to-month financial plan layout. Put in how much cash that you're beginning with. Alter the classifications to reflect what sorts of pay and costs you have. Gauge the amount you believe you will spend in every one of the classes. I for one am not extremely severe with my planning. My primary objective with this framework is simply to realize the amount I'm spending and the amount I'm acquiring. In any case, on the off chance that you in all actuality do follow a more severe planning framework, this would be the progression where you sort of plunk down and like truly investigate and attempt to sort out the amount you will spend during the month. So then, at that point, over time, you just put in the entirety of your pay and costs. You put in the date, the sum, and a depiction of the exchange, as well as which class it fits under. And afterward, Google Sheets will consequently refresh that first page of your calculation sheets mirror the data that you inputted on the subsequent one. However, the following month, rather than making an entirely different accounting sheet, you're about to copy a similar one, rename it, change the beginning about, erase the information, yet keep the classifications. So then, at that point, you will not need to retype all the stuff that you redid. So my month-to-month financial plan calculation sheet tracks all of the cash coming into or leaving my life. Furthermore, ideally there's more coming in, however, whether it is private or business related, it simply catches everything. So then the second accounting sheet that I have is called my quarterly business calculation sheet. Furthermore, it sounds exceptionally extravagant assuming I call it that. So I make the greater part of my cash from photography. I've very made some part memories work. And keeping in mind that's something I'm keen on attempting right now, I get more cash flow each hour doing independent photography and video work than I would at a temporary work. Dislike at beginning compensations. I likewise believe it's great experience for me to attempt to sort out some way to get things done all alone. Furthermore, I additionally very appreciate photography. So it's simply a great chance for me. Thus this is the thing I'm staying with her now. So I have this different bookkeeping sheet to follow all of the cash that I make from photography and all of the business-related costs that I have for it too. I didn't involve a format or anything for this. I in a real sense just made a bookkeeping sheet with a pay segment and afterward expenses section. Furthermore, very much as I accomplished for the other bookkeeping sheet, for each passage I put in the date, the depiction, the class, and the sum. So for my month-to-month financial plan bookkeeping sheet, I had this enormous all-encompassing classification called photography business. Be that as it may, for this bookkeeping sheet, I separate it into additional particular classes. So the classes that I have for costs are hardware, training, Squarespace facilitating my area name, props that I could need to purchase for shoots and afterward allows that I need to acquire for areas for the pay classifications. I have shoot pay. So nearly everything falls under that one. I likewise remember my YouTube income for this accounting sheet since it keeps things less difficult to not need to isolate it out. What's more, there's not so a lot. So then, at that point, the last class is repayment. So like assuming I purchased an area grant for somebody and they took care of me for that, I simply need to keep it separate from the cash that I acquired for the genuine photography administrations. So those are the two calculation sheets that I use sometimes. I will likewise do a little review to ensure that all that I've followed is exact and cutting edge. Thus essentially how I help that is I simply allude to my bookkeeping sheets to sort out how much cash I ought to have. And afterward I go through each of the spots where I could have cash put, dislike under my sleeping pad or in the love seat or something. However, like notwithstanding my ledgers, what do I have in real money and PayPal and Venmo? Or like on Recover Poshmark balance gift vouchers? Simply this large number of easily overlooked details that I could have disregarded that don't appear in my financial balances. So I simply add every one of those up. Then I look at it against the number that I ought to have had. Also, typically the thing that matters isn't excessively a lot, yet I think it simply assists me with feeling more coordinated. I believe you essentially sort out some framework for following how much cash precisely that should is. Since simply monitoring the amount you're making and spending will consequently make you more aware of how you manage cash and it'll help sort of direct you towards little life changes that you can make to manage it. Something else that helped me in secondary school was the way that I could likely easily list off how much times I went out to have lunch all through my whole secondary school profession. So normally when my family or I cook anything, we make a major part with the goal that we have loads of extras, and I never felt like I was passing up a great opportunity, in light of the fact that my companions additionally brought snacks or had school lunch. Furthermore, similar to I couldn't envision how much cash I saved on the grounds that going out to eat is so costly. So whether you inhabit home, I would prescribe attempting to pack dinners since regardless of whether you personally are paying for some food, it'll presumably be a lot less expensive for you to cook at home than it will to purchase something from any eatery. Thirdly, something that you all got some information about on Instagram was my contemplations on like purchasing espresso and tea, and that's what beverages like. I as of late verged on purchasing another camera. Also, fundamentally without a second to spare I concluded that I could really do without it. Thus it didn't simply feel like I tried not to spend that cash. It truly felt like I set aside that measure of cash, or I even brought in that measure of cash, since I had truly grappled with the way that I was going to drop like $3,000 or $4,000 on another camera. And afterward when I concluded I didn't actually require it, it was practically similar to $3,000 or $4,000 was added to my financial balance. Furthermore, that feels significantly better. So I would agree, simply attempting to work on convincing yourself not to make buys. Clearly in some cases you will proceed with the buy since something would truly enhance your life. However, on the off chance that you can invest some energy mulling over everything, you could understand you don't actually require it. And afterward you'll feel like you're bringing in that cash. In conclusion, I've been perusing a book as of late called You Are a Boss and Bringing in Cash by Jensen Sarah. Furthermore, I'm somewhere around 33% of the way through it, however I energetically suggested as well as her other book. You Are a Boss. So the cash one zeroes in a ton on how we have these convictions that we've created since youth that direct the outlook that we have around cash. What's more, it influences the relationship that we have with cash. Also, Justin Sierra does a truly great job of bringing up exactly how wrecked our relationship with cash is on the grounds that the greater part of us need more cash, however at that point at the same time call it the base of all malevolent. What's more, when we truly do have cash, we don't have the foggiest idea how to manage it. Also, simply this contention encompassing cash fundamentally pushes it out of our day-to-day routines, as opposed to welcoming it into our lives. So assuming you're keen on a greater amount of the mental, even profound parts of cash, and you need to get further into that subject, I would suggest that book. However, the most straightforward message of this video, assuming there's any one thing you acquired from it, is that you ought to follow the amount you're making and the amount you're spending, since that will have the greatest effect in itself. If you found this video helpful, make sure to give it a thumb up and share with your friend. Thank you for watching.